The campus of Anna University was quiet that evening. The large buildings stood tall under the dim streetlights. Behind one of these buildings, a girl and her male friend stood talking softly. They were sharing secrets, enjoying a moment away from others. But in the darkness, Gnanasekaran was watching them. He hated them, seeing them as a part of a world he could never be part of. Slowly, he stepped out of the shadows toward them. His voice broke the silence. "What are you doing here?" he shouted angrily. The girl's friend panicked and ran away, leaving her alone. Gnanasekaran moved closer to the girl. His presence was scary, and she froze in fear. What happened next would change her life forever. He left her trembling and alone as he walked away into the night. Later that night, the girl went to the Kottapuram All-Women's Police Station to report the crime. Inspector Arvind and his team began their investigation immediately. Arvind, a sharp-minded officer, believed that every crime leaves clues. At the scene, he looked closely at the ground and found footprints. "Take casts of these," he told his team. "Also, check the CCTV cameras. Someone must have seen something." He spoke gently to the girl, asking her to describe what happened. She explained everything in detail, and Arvind listened carefully. Meanwhile, Gnanasekaran couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what he had done. The power he felt earlier was gone, replaced by fear. He lit a cigarette, staring at his hands. Had he made a mistake? Would the police find him? In his office, Arvind watched hours of CCTV footage. Finally, he noticed something. A man, dressed simply, was seen walking away from the area around the time of the crime. "Zoom in," he said. Though the image was unclear, the man's walk and clothes stood out. Arvind's team searched the streets of Kottur for the person in the CCTV until they found Gnanasekaran in front of his biryani shop. He was calm when the police brought him in, but his fear was growing inside. In the police station, Gnanasekaran sat across from Arvind. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said firmly, but his voice was shaky. Arvind leaned back. "Let me tell you what I know. You walked onto that campus last night. The cameras caught you. The footprints match your sandals found at the crime scene. The girl described you. All the clues point to you." Gnanasekaran started to break down. "What do you want me to say?" he asked softly. "The truth," Arvind replied. Gnanasekaran confessed. He admitted to hating the students who bought food from his biryani center, but treated him like he didn't exist. "I wanted to show them they're not better than me," he said bitterly. Arvind listened, his face calm. He had heard excuses like this before, but Gnanasekaran's cold attitude was disturbing. As Gnanasekaran was led to his cell, Arvind told his team, "This case is closed, but we must stay alert. There could be more like him out there." Meanwhile, the girl sat in her hostel, looking out at the campus. She still felt shaken, but she was proud that she had spoken up. Her courage had helped catch the man who hurt her. In the days following the arrest of Gnanasekaran, the story took an unexpected turn. The details of the assault and, more disturbingly, the girl's personal information began to spread across social media. Rumors started swirling. How had such sensitive details been leaked? Whispers of political involvement filled the air as people began to question whether the case was being exploited for hidden agendas. Outside the university gates, anger brewed. Groups of students, women's organizations, and local residents gathered to demand answers. The protests were loud and emotional, with slogans calling for justice not just for the girl, but for all women who had faced similar situations. Placards read, "Protect, don't expose," and "Justice without fear." The crowd demanded accountability, both for the crime itself and for the breach of the girl's privacy. Inspector Arvind, now watching the protests on the news, sat back in his chair. The case was closed, but the aftermath made him reflect deeply. Later that day, in a press conference, he addressed the public directly. His voice was calm but carried the weight of the lessons learned. "We must learn from this," he began. "To every student watching, remember that your safety is the most important thing. Please keep these in mind. Avoid secluded or private spaces during the evening or night, especially in areas with limited security. Always be aware of your surroundings. If you see a stranger acting suspiciously, report it to campus security or the police immediately. Keep your phone with you, and if possible, share your location with someone you trust when you are outside." "And to everyone else," he continued, We must work together to create a safer environment. Survivors of such crimes need our full support, not our judgment. Sharing their names or details only causes more harm and discourages others from coming forward. Let's commit to protecting their dignity and ensuring justice. Despite the storm outside, the girl found a small spark of courage within her. With the help of supportive classmates and women's groups, she decided to speak at one of the protests. Standing before the crowd, her voice wavered but grew stronger with every word. "I was scared, and I still am," she admitted, "but we cannot let fear silence us. What happened to me could happen to anyone. We need safer spaces, stronger laws, and respect for those who come forward. Let's fight for that together." The crowd erupted in cheers, her words igniting a wave of hope. For the first time since that terrible night, the girl felt a sense of power returning to her. As the protests grew, the message was clear. This wasn't just about one girl or one case. It was about creating a world where no woman would have to live in fear, where justice would be swift and dignity would never be compromised. The girl's courage and the public's support became a beacon of hope. Together, they proved that even in the darkest times, strength could be found, and change was always possible.